Picture this: a man sits alone at a coffee shop. Everyone else is frantically scrolling through their phones, desperately seeking validation from strangers on the internet. The couples around him are taking selfies, the groups are gossiping, the lone wolves are swiping through dating apps like their lives depend on it. But this man, he's got earbuds in, listening to an audiobook about philosophy. While everyone else numbs their minds with TikTok, he's different. He's not lonely, not desperate, not seeking anything from anyone. And that, my friend, makes him the most dangerous person in that room. But why? Why does a man who's comfortable in his own skin, who doesn't need constant external validation, who can sit with his thoughts without needing to escape them, why does this terrify society? Hold that thought. We're about to dive deep into something that will change how you see solitude forever. The lie society tells you about being alone, here's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit. Our entire social structure is built on your neediness. Think about it: every advertisement, every social media platform, every dating app, every self-help guru, they all operate on one fundamental assumption: you are incomplete without others. Find your soulmate, connect with friends, build your network, you need community to be happy. But what if that's all a lie? What if the man sitting alone, completely content with his own company, represents something so threatening to the social order that we've collectively agreed to label him as lonely, antisocial, or weird? Here's what I've learned: society doesn't fear the man who can't be alone. Society fears the man who doesn't need to be with anyone. When philosophy becomes your armor, let me tell you about two men who understood this dangerous truth centuries apart: Friedrich Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his private journal, "All cruelty springs from weakness." Here was a man who could have anyone do anything, command legions, yet he spent his evenings alone, writing to himself, questioning everything. Nietzsche, the philosopher who went mad but whose ideas outlived empires, declared, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe." Both men discovered something that society desperately wants to keep hidden: the person who can be alone with their thoughts is the person who can think for themselves. And thinking for yourself, that's dangerous as hell. The psychology of the dangerous loner. Now let's get real about what's actually happening inside the mind of someone who chooses solitude over social validation. First, they've broken free from the approval addiction. While everyone else is posting, liking, commenting, and seeking that dopamine hit from social media, this person has found something more powerful: self-respect that doesn't depend on external metrics. Second, they've learned to sit with discomfort. Most people can't be alone with their thoughts for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone. Why? Because silence reveals who we really are, and most people don't like what they find. But the dangerous loner, they've made friends with their demons. They've had those 3 a.m. conversations with themselves. They've faced their fears, their insecurities, their failures, and they've come out stronger. Third, they can't be manipulated. This is the big one: when you don't need others for validation, you can't be controlled by the threat of rejection. You can't be bought with popularity. You can't be silenced by social pressure. The Marcus Aurelius method: strength through solitude. Marcus Aurelius had a practice that would seem strange to most people today. Every evening, he would reflect on his day, write down his thoughts, and engage in what he called the discipline of desire. He would ask himself, what did I want today that I didn't need? What did I fear that was outside my control? What did I do to seek approval that compromised my values? This wasn't just journaling, this was training. He was building psychological muscle. See, Marcus understood something profound: the person who knows themselves deeply can't be fooled by the shallow games others play. When you've spent time alone with your thoughts, when you've examined your motivations, when you've faced your shadow, other people's opinions lose their power over you. Their attempts to manipulate you become transparent. Their social games become boring. You become dangerous because you become free. The Nietzsche problem: creating your own values. Nietzsche took this idea even further. He said, "The truly dangerous person is the one who creates their own values instead of inheriting them from society." Most people are walking around with a moral code they never chose. They believe what they believe because their parents believed it, their friends believe it, their culture believes it. They're living someone else's life. But the person who spends time alone, they start asking uncomfortable questions. Why do I believe this? Who benefits from me believing this? What would I believe if I had to start from scratch? This is where it gets dangerous. Because once you start thinking for yourself, you stop being predictable. You stop being controllable. You stop being a good little consumer who buys what they're told to buy, votes how they're told to vote, and lives how they're told to live. The modern epidemic: loneliness versus solitude. Here's where we need to get brutally honest about the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a state of lack. It's the feeling that something is missing, that you're incomplete, that you need others to fill a void inside you. Solitude is a state of wholeness. It's the ability to be complete by yourself, to enjoy your own company, to find peace in silence. Our society has confused these two states because it benefits from the confusion. A lonely person is a consumer. They'll buy products to feel better. They'll seek validation through purchases. They'll stay distracted and compliant. But a person who enjoys solitude, they're not buying anything. They're not seeking validation. They're not distracted. They're thinking, and thinking people are dangerous to systems built on thoughtless compliance. The 4 pillars of dangerous solitude. After studying both Marcus Aurelius and Nietzsche, I've identified 4 key principles that make solitude dangerous. 1. Radical self-honesty. The dangerous loner has learned to be honest with themselves about their motivations, their fears, their desires. They don't lie to themselves to feel better. They face reality head-on. This makes them dangerous because they can spot lies in others. They can see through manipulation. They can't be fooled by pretty words or social performance. 2. Value independence. They've developed their own moral code based on reason and experience, not social pressure or tradition. This doesn't mean they're immoral, often they're more moral than the average person. But their morality comes from within, not from outside authority. This makes them dangerous because they can't be controlled by shame or guilt. They do what they believe is right, regardless of what others think. 3. Emotional self-sufficiency. They don't depend on others for their emotional well-being. They've learned to regulate their own emotions, to find peace within themselves, to be their own source of strength. This makes them dangerous because they can't be emotionally manipulated. They don't need your approval, your love, or your acceptance to feel good about themselves. 4. Intellectual courage. They're willing to think thoughts that others won't think, to question beliefs that others take for granted, to go where the evidence leads, even if it's uncomfortable. This makes them dangerous because they can't be silenced by social pressure. They'll speak uncomfortable truths, even when it costs them socially. The price of being dangerous. Let's not pretend this path is easy. There's a price to pay for this kind of independence. People will misunderstand you. They'll call you antisocial, arrogant, or weird. They'll try to pathologize your preference for solitude. You'll sometimes feel isolated, not lonely, but isolated. There's a difference. You'll realize that most people are living on a different level of consciousness, and sometimes that can feel lonely. You'll lose some relationships. People who are invested in your neediness will be threatened by your independence. Some friends will fade away. Some family members will be uncomfortable with your growth. You'll face pressure to conform.